Greetings, everybody. Welcome to another episode of TBH. To be honest, I am truly excited about this episode for a number of reasons. Um, so today we have Zara-Marie Henry. Zara, how are you doing?
I'm fine. Hi, guys. It's a pleasure to be here.
It's a pleasure having you. So this is the first time, and this is the first, yeah, in all my episodes, this is the first time we're actually speaking, like having a conversation.
Mhm.
We've messaged each other over
Right.
social media, over Instagram, but it's actually our first time speaking.
Mhm.
We just met like 2 minutes before we started recording, said a word of prayer, and we're jumping right in. So,
Authenticity right here,
right,
okay?
right,
Is what it
right.
is.
What you see is what you get. That's it. All right.
Mhm.
So, how do I know of you? So, this is how I know of you.
Okay.
Um, it would have been maybe maybe 6 weeks ago there about, I'm not sure exactly, maybe 2 months ago, where one of my friends, Ashley Pusey, messaged me. Now she didn't know, she's not really like friend. Like we knew each other when I used to live in Mandeville back in the day when she was in high school. And we met at something. And then we kind of lost contact after that. To say lost contact is an overstatement because we were never like friends, but we
Friends, right. I feel you. I know them ways.
and then I got a message out of the blue, right? So I don't know how she got my number, but she got my number. And she said that she was like blessed by the podcast and she was really enjoying it. And I was like, wow. And then she said that there's this girl, she has a friend named Zara-Marie who who does similar stuff. And she would love to see, Zara on the podcast. So I was like, all right, cool, make the link. And
Yeah.
so I hit you up and we spoke on Instagram. Also, I did an episode where I had like persons who tune into the podcast, they ask questions and I would
Right.
answer them. And they asked about me possibly collaborating. And they had suggestions of persons. And this is after we spoke, and this is after we agreed to have you on the podcast.
Right. I remember. I remember.
Right. And you were actually one of the persons that she said she'd want to have on. So it's just like, wow, it's just so crazy how this works out. But I know that you shared with me your, I guess, introduction to me or like how you knew of me from like inspiration.
Yeah, from Singspiration days. And of course, you float around social media with your poetry and with your book. And so I knew about the choir and you leading the choir. So when Ashley mentioned it to me, I was like, yeah, I saw the podcast. I saw people sharing the podcast and everything. I feel like it's a very powerful thing. I've never collabed with anybody before, not because I never really wanted to, but just because with COVID and stuff and just not having the time. And I'm also pretty new to YouTube. So when she suggested it, I was like, yeah, sure, no problem. It would be something. So it was pretty natural for me. I wasn't awkward or anything. I was like, yeah, man, I know they come let me know you from a long time. Yeah, we just get it going.
Yeah. And then you revealed to me that you are part of, I guess, the committee that had Shahaya come to Inspiration. That's
Oh yeah.
2018.
Yeah. And we had to work hard for that, but we got.
I remember we were supposed to come 2017, but it didn't work out like with funds for transportation or whatever. But
Yeah.
and I attended Inspiration my first time 2017 and I saw the vibe and I was like, yo, I really wish Shahaya could have been here. And so
It's a vibe. I actually planned that one that you guys came to that
mhm.
year. And I remember wanting the vibe, and I was like, the only choir I know can do this would be Shahai. And I was like, how do I get them from Mandeville? First of all, we have a budget that we never know how it's going to get paid. And then we said, but to get a whole choir, we're gonna have to get a whole bus. But the Lord, He has a cattle, He has cattle upon 1,000 hills. So we just him just sell one of the cattle and we got the money. So it was a blessing, and I followed the choir ever since.
I appreciate that. Me
Mhm.
too. All right, so there's a question that I asked all my guests. Funnily, I actually forgot to ask the last guest, but I won't make that mistake again. So, who is Zara Marie? Who is Zara Marie Henry?
This is a girl. This is a girl from down at Clarendon. I like to consider myself a servant of God. I do his work in the ways that a lot of people are afraid to do because I don't mind having these difficult conversations. I am a content creator. I create faith-based content predominantly and a little lifestyle just because the more you create other type of content, the more people are interested in about what you do daily. And I'm a very big advocate of actually showing people that being a Christian is more than just waking up every Sabbath or every Sunday and going to church. It's more than just singing on the choir, but it's an entire lifestyle. So I really try to convey that through my content. Yeah, so that's pretty much me for the most part. I'm a lost student-ish. I don't know where I am because I am waiting to be called to the bar, so I finished. So, but that part of my life is it's kind of the part that, you know, your profession is something that you do because you're good at it. You do it because you feel as if you can make a change in this sphere. But my true passion really lies in content creation. Hopefully one day I can do that full time. I don't know, we'll see.
Yeah, man, I hope that works out for you for sure.
Yeah.
Definitely. I've seen the content and it's good and it's interesting.
Um,
It's hard to be honest, it's hard to catch. Not a lot of things interest me, right? So, so yeah, like there, should I say this? I'm gonna say it. Maybe it'll help me in the future. So a lot of times persons like might share their songs with me or their poems with me. And and I don't like it because no, sometimes it's good.
yeah.
Sometimes some of my friends like Leslie, my friend Leslie, she always has good poems and stuff. But it's just so hard for me to like critique persons, especially this my friend or whatever. Saying all that to say, saying all that kind of to say, y'all can kind of ease back on send me stuff. But saying all that to say, not everything interests me, but your stuff, I've actually sat down and I've watched it. So that's
I
for me,
appreciate
that's just something.
I appreciate that.
I remember you gave an analogy about like the cell phones, the iPhone, but you have to customize it for
Yeah.
that. Yeah,
Yeah.
like, so saying all of that, why I'm so excited about this topic is we're gonna be talking about Christian dating. Now let me tell you something.
Ooh.
I have my pen and my paper.
You should get mine.
Young men, ladies, take note. We're gonna be hearing from the perspective of two young Christian persons, just our thoughts. We're not the authority on anything, but our thoughts and our views on Christian dating. Many times I've, gone to AY program and they're talking about Christian dating, and it's kind of like the same 5 surface level steps that they give.
Don't be unequally yoked.
Don't be unequally yoked. Don't be alone in the house. Go out with groups. Meet the parents.
Yeah.
But
Don't start too early.
what's that?
Don't start too early. Yet still they send us to camp and tell us to get a date. I never get it. It don't make sense.
Wow. So, but what we want to do is we want to talk about like what actually affects us, our thoughts, our practices, all those things. So the first thing I want to ask you is this: you're a female, right?
Yeah.
I'm sure you have female friends. I'm sure you have female friends that might be single. What do you think is like a major challenge as it relates to, maybe you can speak for young ladies or young persons in general, like finding a mate? What are some of the challenges persons have finding that person?
It's interesting that you asked that question because last week I had a potluck with a few friends and we discussed the same perspective, but from the female side. And I can give that and then I can tell you the male perspective as well, and then you can chip in.
Sure.
So one of the biggest things that I've recognized as a problem personally, and even when I hear others talk, is the fact that it's really, really hard to find balance. So for us, balance seems as if you need to be balancing career, you need to be balancing your social life, and all of these things for the world, I mean. But for us as Christians, it really is a balance between being true in your identity, in your Christian identity, and also being social. Like you can carry go a road, you can socialize, you can hold amends, you can hang out, you can be adventurous. And I think we recognized as Christians, both men and women, that it's very hard to find somebody who has struck a real good balance. So sometimes they're either super religious, so spiritual. Every day them, I mean, the Bible is good, don't get me wrong, but every day they're only talking about the Bible. They're always in the Bible. It's always a conversation about prophecy. It's always wanting to do these very, very good, but always religious things. And them can't, you carry them out, them can't dress properly. You can't, they're not interested because it's vanity. They can't, they can't behave normal outside of church. Like they don't know how to hold a meds. And I find it especially on the side of on the worldly side. So it's either they're like that, or this is the other part now. They're so laid back, very lukewarm. They just go to church, warm in bench, and they think that they have the identity as a Christian, even worse as a Seventh-day Adventist, and they go to church and they participate, but they're shallow, very shallow. They can't hold a conversation. Every conversation them have is always on the other side of the spectrum. They don't want to talk about godly things. No, they don't pray. That's not a part of their persona. And it's hard because you want to be able to grow in grace. You want to be able to grow as a Christian. But at the end of the day, we're still living in a world and we're still humans. We have human needs as well. So we want to be able to be social beings. We want to be able to have fun. And we want to, and it's not, I don't think it's separate. I don't think being spiritual and being religious should be separate, because what we should be doing is living out the Bible. Sometimes we know the Bible so much, we read it, but we don't live it out. So we're not showing the fruits in our daily lives. We're not nice to people. We're very stringent. We don't give second, we're not open-minded. So we don't even give somebody else the opportunity to tell us their concept, And frankly, sometimes we're boring, but we don't try to look on things from the side of how can I make this situation fun as a Christian? It's just like, oh no, Christians mustn't have fun, no, Christians mustn't go there, so Christians, but where do we go instead? So that's maybe the biggest problem for me, biggest problem I've heard about finding a balance, finding somebody who can find a good balance and actually live out the Bible. So that's it from my perspective. What about you?
So I'll share from my perspective, meaning not from what I've heard other persons. Because all right, so before I continue, I get to understand you're not single.
No, I'm not.
And I am single. So we're getting all these different opposites. So
single, I mean, I still taking single in the passport form.
Not married, but not available. Like
right.
Right. So, and then I am single in every sense of the word, right? So we're getting every perspective today. For me personally, it's just weird where it's like the, and I don't know if this is a male thing, or if it's like males like the chase kind of thing, which to me that's not the case, but maybe subconsciously, I don't know. But like the girl them will dead over me. I just don't find them like,
you're not interested,
right?
Yeah.
And then it's like the ones that I find myself like super into, they were like me, like in some cases they were like me, but there's always some either some
Like
trauma. They just come out of a relationship and they're hurt, or it's always some, or them just like we meet today and then next week them a migrate. Like it's always like it's always something like that. And so it's always just been a case where it's just never aligned. Let me not say it's never aligned, because it has aligned in the past and I've messed up stuff. Like badly. Yeah, like legit. But the balance issue that you brought up is interesting, and it made me think about this when you brought that up. So if a guy, no, if a girl likes the guy, right, but the guy is too worldly, as you said, he's not really living the life. Some
Yes,
girls might take their approach, or maybe vice versa. Some guys may take their approach,
that they can change them.
right, right.
Mhm.
And I
Like,
always I always see people, bash out against that, like you can't change anybody, which I agree with. At the same time, a relationship is supposed to help both persons to grow.
for sure, for
So
sure.
how do you find that balance between like what's trying to change somebody and
Mhm.
what's trying to enhance
Help
somebody,
them
trying to
grow.
help them grow? Like
Yeah.
how do you strike that balance?
Well, for me, it's not okay. So I don't think that spiritual growth is very linear. I don't think that it is, oh, you have to do X, Y, Z to say that you're spiritually mature, because spiritual maturity to me might look different for you, because at some point you were struggling with something that I wasn't struggling with, and vice versa. So I don't think there's a checklist for what spiritual growth and spiritual maturity would look like. However, what is very neutral amongst everybody who wants to grow spiritually is actual desire. So you might not be at a space where you feel like you are fully connected with God, and that is okay. It is, and I think that sometimes we think that it's not okay, and we think that, all right, because we're not there, we're not worthy. It's okay to not feel as if you're there, but you can want to be there. And with wanting to be there, no, that person who you're with, they can help you along that journey, and then the Holy Spirit can do its thing, but Mike can do his thing. Wow, excuse you, Zara. But my issue is when you blatantly will tell me, say it's a mistake. I remember one time this guy, they tell me, say, yeah, man, we don't have to have sex, but we can have a little fun. And I'm like, you mean by little fun? Please be clear, sir. Excuse me, because so right then and there, you know, say him and say, listen, there, because it's hard. Dating, dating is not an easy thing, especially when you die into flesh and all of that, right? So it is generally hard. So can you imagine if you already go into that situation knowing that you are pulling down boundaries and knowing that you're not even trying, you have no desire to grow any at all, you have no desire to develop that part of your life, because you kind of give up from the get-go. So I think that's where you can understand to strike the balance. Is this person, maybe you have been in the church longer, or maybe you have been reading more, or maybe you and God kind of dip on the journey a little bit longer. So you and him have this relationship that's different from the other person. And the other person isn't there, and that is okay. I've never been one to say, you know, nice young man in the church, and this girl just come out of nowhere and take him and whatever. No, I've never been that one, but I've always been the one to say that if somebody wants to grow spiritually, and you and them can be in a relationship and you help them to grow. But the difference is when we the blatant to say, yo, I can't bother with that, or yeah, man, we got church because you want me to go. It should never be like that. It should be a thing where both of you, because as I would have said, we still have room to grow. None of us are perfect. And
Right,
in the
right.
spiritual walk, there's always us, there might be something that the person who has been in there for 10 years and the person who just come in, and the new person knows more than you, or can show you a different light, or can help you to understand or let go of some of our bad characteristics. So it's really desire. That's really where we strike the balance. Mhm.
That makes sense. That makes sense. So what was the guy's definition of a little fun?
Me never take him on, honestly. Me never take him on. And I think him did just say something like, oh, I can come to your room, but I was even on campus. He's like, oh, I can come to your room, and we just hang out, watch a movie, we don't have to go all the way. And I'm like, first of all, I do not know you, sir. There is no way you're coming to my room. And then like that was really, that guy wanted a wife, right? He wanted a wife right then and there. He made it very clear. And I mean, I wish him all the best in life. He eventually got married. But at the time, he was coming straight on and saying, yo, I want no more friends. And I mean, I appreciated that. I appreciated that he never wanted any more friends. And we just went our separate ways. Possibly he was at a place spiritually that I couldn't take that on at the time, so.
Gotcha. We're gonna touch on that a little later. Being alone, But before we get there, I want to know, like, what do you think? So males and females are different. Males and females are different, and many times we run into problems when males expect females to be males. Like, we don't put it like that, but pretty much we expect them to be males, and females expect males to be females.
To be females, that's true.
What's the biggest thing that about guys that, if any, that you just don't get? Like, you just don't get, like, why males think like that? Why do they do that? If there's anything where you just don't understand us.
I've spent a lot of time reading a lot about males and the male psychology. So men are from Venus. No, men are from Mars, girls are from Venus. The Five Love Languages is also a very good one.
Before you continue, and I'm gonna also ask, what are things that you think males just don't get about females?
About females, okay. So if I should just pull something onto the hat, it would be the lack of communication. Like, I feel like males act like, say, talking them feelings and expressing their desires and what they want is like so hard. And I think that's actually one of the main things for females too. I think the thing that males don't get the most is why females think that males can read their minds. Why you feel like, say, I'm supposed to know what's always happening. I'm supposed to know what I need to do next, when we're both growing and when we're both learning each other. So one, I think females are annoyed that males don't communicate more. They're not as expressive. They're maybe not as in some people, some men, not all, but a lot of men aren't as in tune with their emotions as we would want them to be. So they're not going to want to sit down and talk about why them stay. So because them family have some issues and they're not going to want to do that. And we want them to sit down and talk, because that's how a lot of us, that's how we release. And then, of course, the reading of the mind for men. I know that for sure.
Yeah. Do you think the males not expressing themselves, do you think that's like how we are, or you think it's like a more of a social thing? Like,
social thing for sure. Social thing for sure. Some people have succumbed to social pressure. So we've allowed the society to basically describe how we're supposed to behave and supposed to act, instead of actually being in tune with our feelings. So I think family background, family dynamics has a lot to do with it. Sometimes when you look in these households, that's how their father was, that's how their uncles were, and that's just how they thought that they were supposed to be. But the more you try to, I guess, re-socialize yourself and try to edify of some soft skills and just want to grow and develop as a person, then you let go of some of those constructs.
Yeah, I'm not so sure if it's a social thing.
Think so? Okay.
I think of course society plays a role.
Yeah.
I think also there are things that are just different with males and females.
Because of the biology?
Yes, of course, we're speaking generally.
That's fair.
I think males are driven by what they do, what they make. I think females are very driven by relationships, right? So you'll meet a man, right? And he'll like, if he's to like boast or just share he'll share like what his job is, what he does, what he accomplished, that kind of thing. And you meet a female and she'll like speak about her children and what they're doing, and so females are like very relational in nature, and males are very things and building and doing. And even if you look back in like the Garden of Eden, right? Like Adam was like to tend to the garden and do the work and whatever, and then Eve was like a helpmeet. So it's like she was more relational. So I think a part of it is biology. And then I think with society and those things being practiced, it may
over time.
It may go to extreme. So the extremes may be societal, but I do believe that there's an element of who we are that kind of initiated that kind of behavior.
That's fair. Point taken. And also, like, if you really step into what your role is as like a biblical role of a man to kind of be in charge, to kind of lead, versus the woman who is supposed to, be the nurturer and whatever, you find that those roles actually call for certain characteristics and certain behaviors. So I guess they work together.
For sure, for sure. The mind reading thing though, I get it, but I don't get it. Like, so like I understand that females feel like if the guy likes me, he should know this.
Yeah.
But there's the thing I always say, like females are different, right? So what this female might appreciate, the next female might not. And
Yeah.
so I'll come across where females will say like, yo, if ready, you should da da da. Or if you do this, I'm going to feel away. But I'm gonna be like, but like the
Oh,
last
before
person
you
I
know
did
that.
it wasn't even a big deal, right? So it's
Yeah.
like that females have to understand that even females are different. And
True.
so you can't like expect there to be these rules that the guy must know. You know, that
Mhm.
kind of thing.
That's true. That's true. I also think that as females, we want communication and we want to be communicated to, but some things we hold back because of what we think men are supposed to do. So we don't communicate our expectations. And I think it's one of the downfalls in a lot of relationships, marriages, even platonic relationships. We're upset about something and we don't talk about it, or we never communicated those expectations in the first place, and then we bring that burden. So we bring that burden, and the burden that we bring, it kind of blows something else that happens out of proportion. So really and truly, we never vex, say you leave the socks on the floor, I never that from last week when it was something and you never pick me up on time. That's when I was upset. And then no, you're saying, but it's not a big deal. Why you're behaving like that? But it's really because sometimes we stifle things and we don't communicate clearly. We don't communicate our expectations in a lot of our relationships. And the truth is, as humans, we can't read each other's minds. We can't. So it's something that I'm learning how to do. It doesn't always
Read
come
person's
up,
minds.
huh? No, 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 no. Communicate my expectations clearly with even like my friendships. It's not always received in the best way, especially with other girls. It's not always received in the best way because they feel like your expectations are too high, or they feel like you're touchy. But I don't think it's being touchy. I just think you get better relationships when you tell people exactly what you expect. So when you're clear on your expectations, then people know how to behave, and then say, okay, well, Zara expects me to do X, then if I don't do X, you're gonna feel away. So
As the example you gave with the socks and whatever, an analogy that I've used yesterday with a friend of mine was, you know when you're eating something hot and it's too hot and it like scorch your tongue,
yes.
and then after that you may continue eating and the rest of the food is the right amount of heat, but because the tongue already scorched, everything
Yes.
else just start burning,
Yes.
right? So when something hurts you, it's like these other things aren't that big of a deal, but that hurt from the first thing is still there. So
Right.
everything just comes and starts to burn, and so it's an issue. But here's the other thing with communication though. I feel like if the female isn't gonna trust the guy, then it might as well like not be a relationship, because because there's another thing I've experienced. Like if you're not gonna trust me, I'm not gonna want to like share things with you. Like let me give you an example. Suppose like somebody got murdered, right? And I was at that person's apartment that same night, but I didn't murder the person. But I was at the apartment before the person got murdered, or even after, right? If I know you trust me, I would be able to tell you, listen, I was at the apartment, but I didn't kill Jack. I didn't kill the apartment. But if I know you don't trust me, I don't even want to share, even though I'm innocent, I don't even want to share any information, because you're going to take that and you're going to add what you want to add to it, and you're going to spin it in your little head.
Your own story.
Right. And so I feel like a lot of the time, a lack of trust may also aid in a lack of communication with guys, and maybe even both sides.
That's true. That's true. Because the more comfortable you get, you realize the more open people get in general with a lot of things. So
When I spoke about trust, people will say trust has to be earned. So so you meet guy and you start talking. Do you like give him a blank slate and say I'm just gonna trust you until otherwise proven, or I'm not gonna trust you until you prove that you're trustworthy? Like how do we approach trust?
Well, I think it's different for everybody. Personally, I don't have trust issues because I've never really been in relationships like that have burned me. So I personally don't struggle with that, but I know that a lot of people.
Like, whisper a prayer and just thank God when
yes, I am. I know it's a big blessing. It's a big blessing. Just because I've just been okay sitting back. I've been okay looking on and observing and not getting into, you get into like a relationship every month and you break up and no, I've never been that person. Not because I never saw people that I like, but because I was pretty content in figuring out who I was. So anyways, we can jump forward to the fact that I don't really have trust issues. But some people have trust issues because of what they've gone through and what they've been through. So for me, the first thing I've always said to people, especially if you're you're pursuing somebody or you're pursuing a relationship, the first thing is to be open to knowing that one day you will have to start breaking down the walls, right? You don't break down the walls immediately because you don't know this person, you don't know what this person is capable of. But in the getting to know phase, you're not gonna start too deep and whatever, but if you break down the walls gradually, but you have to have that mindset going in, like especially when things start to get serious, you have to say, okay, I will have to start breaking down the walls if this is what I really want. And it's not something that happens automatically. It's something that takes prayer, something that takes journaling, something that takes asking other people to pray for you. It's not an easy process, but it's a gradual process. It's not something where you're just going to get up and say, I trust you. But without trust, then the other aspects of the relationship will get affected and the relationship might not be able to grow. So it's more than just saying, boy, we're not gonna trust a person here because of all I've been through, but it's also being smart about it. And this week we learned about forgiveness and letting go of stuff. Sometimes, well, this week in the adult lesson, for those who wouldn't know what I'm referring to, we spoke about forgiveness and the fact that forgiveness is for you more than it is for anybody else. And sometimes when you forgive persons, it doesn't mean that your relationship is reinstated. It doesn't mean that things will go back to normal, but it just means that you are able to move on. And sometimes we harbor these trust issues because we haven't moved on from things that have burnt us. We haven't let go. And as Christians, we need to let go. We need to learn how to move on. Letting go don't mean you need to be back in the person's house and being your BFF or being back with them or anything. It just means that you need to learn to say, vengeance is not yours. Vengeance is for the Lord. Yes, they did you wrong, but you have to be able to learn how to break and be honest. So the more you develop this relationship with this new person, you have to say, yo, this did happen to me and this is why XYZ. And if that person's serious about you, then over time it should flow naturally.
I hear a lot of conversations about forgiveness, and I hear a lot of things that become popular, but I don't necessarily agree with.
Okay.
I don't necessarily agree that forgiveness is mostly about you, right? I believe that it has a lot to do with you, but I feel like we've said that it's something that we do.
But what's the difference? What's the difference between mostly and a lot?
I'll explain.
Okay.
This is something that we do as people, Christians and just people generally. We overcorrect things, right? So like if we're doing something in one direction and we're doing it wrong, we like swing the pendulum all the way to the other side, right? Okay. I'll give you two quick examples. Like probably 2 decades ago, in my experience, on like stewardship days, we'd all talk about money, right? We just focus on money. And then there became a season when stewardship is not just about money, Stewardship is not just about money, it's about all this. And I've been hearing that for like legit probably 2 decades, and now we don't talk about money at all on stewardship days, right? The other example, maybe the same 2 decades ago, when we tell the story about the prodigal son, we talk about the prodigal son. And then one day it's just like, we only talk about the prodigal son, but there's the son that's back home. The son is back home, back home. And then we overcorrect and we only talk about the son that's back home and we never really talk about the prodigal son. Saying that to say, for forgiveness, many times you might focus on the other person and we never really focus on the fact that, it has something to do with us as well. It's about us letting go, us not hurting or whatever. But I do believe that it's not mostly about that. I believe just like love, there's benefits to me in loving you, loving my brother, loving whoever. There's benefits to me. But I don't think I should love focusing on the fact that it's going to benefit me as well. I feel that my focus needs to be the person who's the recipient of the love. I do believe that forgiveness is therapeutic for me. It's necessary for my relationship with God. But I don't think my main objective, my main persuasion, what's the word I'm looking for? My main motivation should be the benefit I'm gonna get. I do believe that it's forgiveness is wrapped up in the element of love, and as such, I should be also equally as focused on the benefit the offender is gonna get, right? So I think we have to look at it from both sides.
Yeah, for sure.
And not just focus on the fact that, forgiveness is mostly for you to let go, for you to move on, whatever. But also as it relates to how it's going to restore that person and help that person as well.
Yeah, I think it's balanced. I think it's balanced. I agree, but I do think that it's if we're supposed to split it, I think it's 60-40.
Okay.
I personally think it's 60-40 because at the end of the day, you giving love and forgiveness to another person, them actually acting on that forgiveness and wanting to change is on them.
Okay.
But you letting go of that burden is something that will help you to evolve. That the other person, they might not even care that you have forgiven them. It might not affect them any at all. And you should also be okay with that. That's why I think it's 60-40, because at the end of the day, sometimes we find it so hard to forgive because they're saying, but this person is still such a bad person. Or this person is still going about and raping people, but they raped me. So at the end of the day, do I still hold on to this because this person will not change? Because your forgiveness to them, it don't affect them none at all. So that's why I think that it's predominantly for us, but I do get your point.
Yeah, and I guess the situations, it also depends on the situation, because
That's true.
There's the situation where the person is unrepentant.
Yes.
And still carry on the behavior. Where you have to just forgive them and just move on for yourself.
Yes.
And there's also the situation where the person is repentant. And wants to be like restored to that, whether it's a relationship or a friendship or whatever it is. So right. the situation has a lot to do with it. Now I want to ask you this, and you're gonna be giving the gentlemen that are watching life hacks. I want to know what are like some of the biggest turn-offs females may have, whether it's in a guy's approach, whether it's in something you may say, like what's a turn off for a female that guys may not even realize.
Christians or
either Christians or in general people.
I know that for sure it's a guy that spends the whole time trying to buy somebody. So trying to impress you because of all that they have achieved instead of the fruit of the spirit. I'm a very big advocate of allowing the fruit to show and allowing God's impact on your life to show. It's not really about putting in a resume. So, I am XYZ. I own this BMW. I do not care. I have my own money. Like we have our own ambitions. We have our own life. So I feel like a successful woman who is ambitious, working towards whatever goal, no matter how small your goal is, it is still a goal, working towards anything. We're not very impressed when somebody tries to buy us or flaunt these materialistic things. Well, the woman that I talk to, some people are like that, but
of course.
yeah, but it is. So that's one of the things. The second thing, I know it's a pet peeve, but I know that grammar and get you're talking at the bottom, I'm not telling no lie. Sometimes when the grammar is so bad, it gets a little, it gets, yeah, so 100. The third thing is what I said to you before, that there's no real balance. So you're not bringing yourself properly. Your physical appearance, you might be good looking, so you might be handsome, but you don't put yourself together properly. And especially in the church, I know that was one of the biggest concerns, that a lot of guys would say to me that, oh, Zara, the girls in the church, they talk about no men in the church, and look how they're here and them not looking our way and whatever. But when you do the comparison, outside will look attractive. And even for the females too, I've heard men say it all the time. Oh, there are no nice females in the church, or the ones in the church just as bad as the ones outside of the church. I've heard that over and over. But at the end of the day, we are not putting ourselves together in a way where we seem as if we're flourishing in whatever area we're in our little spaces. So even if you have 5 suits of clothes, we're not washing them properly, we're not ironing them properly, and we're not putting them together properly. We're not grooming ourselves properly. We're not representing Christ in the way that we need to as children. I always say, when people see me, they must want to come to church, they must say, oh my gosh, which God you serve? I want to be. So I know that's a major turn off, the fact that we're not bringing ourselves as men aren't bringing themselves as properly as they should. Them either they on the side where them look too much like the world, or them on the side where them can't even match them tie and them shirts. So yeah, that's also a big turn off. And other things like body odor, those little things, but those are like general stuff. But the deeper stuff, yeah.
All right, so you said the Lexus not gonna impress you, and the big house and whatever. So what would impress you, or what has impressed you?
For me is, and for me and a lot of my females, because I do represent, and I represent very proudly all the dear church girls out there. Big up to my community. I love you guys so much. That's like a shameless plug. So for sure, I know that something that is very attractive is a man who diligently seeks God first. And that seeking God does not mean you need to be singing. It does not mean you need to be on a pulpit preaching, because I know sometimes we mix that up and we think that, oh, because he's a pastor or because he's singing an a cappella group, he must be a Christian. It's never that. But it is more that you can see the fruit of the Spirit. By your fruit you shall know them. You can see that God has control, and this person is literally surrendering. So he's diligent in Bible study, and he's not diligent in a Bible study means that he's gonna come talk to Bible study all the time, but you should see it in the way he behaves, the way he treats people, the way he treats other women in his life, his mother, his aunties, just random people. Does he open the door for this old lady who's passing? Those little things. And that's why it's very good to be observant before you jump into things. It's very good to see how people behave in society, social settings. That's one thing. Another thing, we're not even gonna go around. We like a man who looks nice. And when I say look nice, you put yourself together nice, you have on your nice clothes, clean and well groomed. And I think we mix it up. Sometimes we say, oh, we don't have the money to dress up. It not take enough money for smell fresh and stuff. It's not expensive. You can buy 5 cheap things and 5 cheap shirts and 5 cheap pants, and you rotate them, but you're always clean and always well put together. That's another very, very attractive thing. And the third one I would put out is somebody who is working towards something. So ambition is it. is not the person who has it already, but the person who is working towards it. And you must can show me your plans, show me your goals. You must can say, because at the end of the day, if you are supposed to be the person who is leading me, because you are being led by God, God don't like waste man. I always say, God don't like waste man. So you want to be able to be ambitious. I must know that you're working towards something. And that doesn't mean that you need to be in university getting a degree, because as far as we're concerned, most of us either getting low paid jobs or unemployed anyways. So, but it means that you have a plan and you know how you're going to lead, because we're not dating just for fun. We're dating because one day we eventually want to get married. So at the end of the day, if a man can show you that they have a plan and the plan is XYZ, and within the next 2 to 3 to 5 years, this is what I have in mind, then I know that my girls think that that is very, very attractive.
You spoke about he's supposed to be the one leading you.
Yeah.
I have a friend here, right? And anytime she's the topic of like females or wives submitting, she has roll her eye. Like she doesn't like that idea at all. What are your thoughts on submitting on the man and his place in a relationship or a marriage, household, etc.?
I think the reason a lot of us roll our eyes, because I've been a roll eye person as well, is because the world has warped and the world has destroyed what submission really means. And we as a people, we have taken the world's interpretation and not really what the Bible asks for. Of course, the Bible was written in a very patriarchal time, but at the end of the day, it is still God's word. And a man who is being led by God and a man who loves his wife in the same way that God loves his church is somebody who will lead you in a direction that you won't even have to think about abuse. You won't even have to think about the fact that you're being lowered. So I think because we think that leadership is, oh, somebody going to tell you what to do, tell you how to dress, it's nothing like that. It's more that because God calls men to be the leader of their household, God calls men to submit to him. If a man submits to him, the man will love you unconditionally. The man will hear your thoughts, your voice, and you still have a part to play, because the head can't work without the neck. So you are steering the head at the end of the day. But that man is supposed to be the one who will be the one hold up the pillars. At the end of the day, God calls men to be able to give direction, to give guidance, to be the one that if I'm indecisive, you must can say, we're going to go Burger King or we're going to go Wendy's. You must can say, listen, I think Wendy's is the best place to go right now because XYZ. And you should be able to say, okay. I mean, I know it's not as simple as that, but biblical submission is much more than what the feminist movement was trying to stay away from. The feminist movement was trying to stay away from oppression and the treatment of women as if they were nothing and if they were worthless. But if a man is supposed to love his wife in the same way as God loves the church, then it would be nothing like that.
All right. Dating a guy, right? Not married yet.
Mm-hmm.
All right. You go to the store, not the store, you go to the mall or wherever, and you find a nice dress, and you buy a nice dress. You go home, you try it on, you love it, right? All right, you and your guy are gonna go out. So you put on your dress, and the guy, he doesn't like, it's either, in his opinion, maybe a little too revealing or a little too tight, or, he doesn't like it. Do you listen to him and change it? Do you, my body, my money, my dress? Part 2 to that question. You want to cut off your hair. You want to cut off your hair, but your boyfriend, not your husband, your boyfriend, I don't even know if it makes a difference, but your boyfriend says, no, I like your hair. I don't want you to cut it off. It's my head, it's my hair. Like, how do you approach those things as relates to like your boyfriend's opinion and things like that?
People always have their opinions, but if we're in a relationship, we must can strike a compromise. So I think it's much more than, who's the submissive one and who's the dominant one, but much more of, we are working together and we're in this together. it's not about who's in control. It's more about how can we strike a compromise. So if he doesn't like the dress, we're going to sit and we're going to have a conversation, because I obviously like the dress. So why do you not like the dress? Is it because you are insecure? Is it because you don't trust me in this dress? I want to know the root reason. And if it's something that you genuinely don't like, and because of these, if it's just a preference, like you prefer red or black, and may say, no, I like pink, then that's obviously not a valid reason. I'm going to move on. But if it's a thing where you just don't like how this exposes me, and you don't think that you don't think that it would be accepted in any sphere, whether I was single or married or anything at all, then we can have maybe I need to look into myself as well. Do I really feel comforted? Should I, as a Christian, should I be wearing that dress in the first place? So it just goes down to the principle. What is the principle behind the disagreement? It's not I'm going to just say, when him said jump, I'm going to say how high. No, it's all about compromise. In everything, you're going to need to compromise. If you're in a friendship, it's platonic. Your parents, you're going to need to compromise. Here is the same thing, right? You like one here, him like one here. Why do you like? I'm not going to try to purposefully, if I'm with somebody, I'm not going to try to purposefully upset them just because I like a certain thing. We're going to compromise. And I think that's healthy. It's healthy communication. So if it's a thing where I want to cut off my hair because it will help me to be more effective in what I'm doing, he should be able to understand that him can put in preferences aside too. So it comes down to the principle and comes down to the foundation of it. It's more than just, oh, he's the boss or she's the boss. It's much more than that. And I think the more we will open our minds to think about things in a way that it's a partnership. And if, as I said, we're not dating for fun. If you're dating for fun, then that's fine. That's how you want to be alive. But as Christians, I don't think it's a fun and game thing. So this is somebody who you envision. This is serious dating we talk about. We're not talking about, oh yeah, meet this is somebody group dating, none of that. We're talking about your one-on-one, right? Exclusively. So we're supposed to be able to strike a good compromise. That's my opinion. How do you feel about that?
Yeah, I mean, you raise a good point as it relates to like asking why you don't like the dress.
Yeah.
For me personally, I have to be kind of different, because certain things necessarily bother me.
Really matter, yeah.
Right. But I don't want to just speak from my perspective, because I know guys that they like to have that dominant say on a relationship. But I think that kind of goes back to what you said about the misunderstanding of submitting.
Yeah, they misunderstand it too.
Right. It's like a power type thing where, and it's always weird to me, like, because I've had guy friends, and like the way how they speak about like pretty much how they control the woman.
Mm-hmm.
And to me, like, I can understand the appeal in that if it's not somebody I'm serious about.
Yeah.
If it wasn't somebody I was serious about, and it's kind of messed up to say, but if it wasn't somebody I was serious about, and me feel like I have that kind of, that kind of pull over a female, I can understand the pull in that. But if it's like somebody that I'm looking for to be my life partner,
Yeah.
I don't want a slave as a life partner.
No, you're not married, maid.
That's not a partner.
Yeah.
That's a slave. That's a servant. That's what I want. A partner. I want somebody that feels like, yeah, me and them are here. And so it's never like appealing for me for somebody I'm serious about be like, yo, no, change that dress, and she could change it. That just feel weak. Like from her. I don't want anybody that's weak. So yeah, I think it's just it's a culture. And it comes from, as you said, a misunderstanding of that whole submission thing. But yeah, nah.
It's all about a man's ego sometimes, and they don't understand what it really means. Because I mean, men are egotistical. We don't even have to ask. It's one of the truths. It kind of happens. So,
Ego as it relates to like the same situation, like me wanting to change the dress, and so you better change the dress, that kind of thing.
Or ego that you want to be in control.
Oh.
Men are supposed to be dominant.
Yeah. Yeah. What you say to me, for me personally, the most appealing thing is a strong woman that doesn't have to submit, but chooses to.
Yeah.
Right? So she doesn't do it out of fear or in any stressful way. She does it because listen, I'm a strong one, but that's my king. And so, and that kind of thing. And so it's a letting in and
Yeah,
not
it's
me
love and
forcing in. And that to me is like the most appealing thing ever.
mm-hmm.
So yeah, I don't want to be in a position where I feel like I am empowering her, whether psychological or anything else. I want it to be where my love for her and her admiration for me makes her want to, that kind of thing.
Want to make you choose Wendy's over Burger King? Just like it's not even it's something that is supposed to be effortless. It shouldn't be something that it's a cycle of love and respect. There's a book, I don't remember the name, I don't remember the author, but essentially yeah, it's a book, Love and Respect. Google it,
Okay,
anybody.
that's it. Okay, I remember the title.
Right. And essentially the premise of the book is that women want to be loved because the Bible told men to love their wives, and men want to be respected. Once women are loved in the way that they're supposed to be loved, then they will show that respect. If that's not happening, then it's a vicious cycle and it goes the opposite way. Because if the woman is called, if God tells the man to love his wife and the man isn't loving his wife, then the wife won't respect her husband. And because there's no respect, then there's no love. And because there's no love, there's no respect. And it goes around and around and around. And I mean, the book is a little bit, sometimes I feel like it's a little bit repetitive, but it shows you in the different situations how the cycle can attack relationships.
All right. Dating a guy. You kiss, you embrace, you cuddle. How far do you think is
How far is too far?
right? That's the question I always ask. And so what's your opinion on physical interaction, intimacy with unmarried Christian couples?
I think it depends. And I'll go for say it depends, because I think I did a video on this where I was saying that how far is too far would depend on how far you can go. And we're not pushing the limits, because how I think it works is that you have actually having sex at the end of the spectrum, and then you have all of the other, hold on, then you have the other things on this side of the spectrum. So there's no kissing or no hugging, or some people have a no cooking rule in a day. Like some people say that cooking is an intimate act. Seriously, I've heard it that they're not cooking together until they're married. Is people have these boundaries. So I think that the boundaries are at this end of the spectrum. I've always said it's a slippery slope. The closer you go down to the end of the spectrum, this is where the analogy I have is where you kind of have the devil down here, so like a fork. So the closer you go from this slope to you have the no kissing and no hugging and the no cuddling and all of that. The closer you go here is the closer to committing the fornication that you're going, right? So you should know how far you're going to go to slide. And why would you plan to go? Why would you plan to slide? It's like you're going down the slide and you plan to slide, right? So that's why I say it really depends. It really depends on you as a person. I really personally, I don't believe in giving cookie cutter formulas, because cookie cutter formulas will not work for everybody. They will not work. And I've always said, a lot of the people who used to come up and I say, oh, I never hug, I never kiss, them did for 6 months and then married. Bingo. And I said that shadily and unapologetically, because I don't like when people come online and they talk about what they never do. And the real truth is there are certain physical interactions, hugging, kissing, whatever, going out together, going over. There are certain things that you can hold out for so long. So after 6 months, 2 months, 3 months, fine. You see them, everybody going to the chapel very happily, right? And then they come and you make these. If you do a quick YouTube search, and all of those people who said they never touch, them never hold hands, all of them got married within 2 weeks. So you find that different people have different things that they like, different boundaries that they put up. Like I remember I had a boundary when I was in college that I wouldn't any guy come in my room, I would leave my room door open. So I was living on dorm and I would not close that door because I knew that I needed that boundary.
Right.
So I would not close the door. And then it came to a point where I wouldn't even allow somebody out the room. Your boundaries will also depend on what you're going through at the time.
Yeah.
So some females, you're going through not ovulation, or some people have different urges at different parts of their cycle. So you have to be honest with yourself about when certain things can happen. Sometimes you can't even give somebody a hug. Sometimes you can't even hold hands, depending on what you're going through. So how far is too far really will depend on you. It really will depend on you and your conscience. I do also, as much as I dare being shady about people who get married quickly, I am not a very big advocate of very long courtships either, and very, very long, because them something that gets in trouble, because biologically, you really can hold out on certain things for so much longer. And it gets harder the older you get, it gets harder the longer the relationships get. So as shady as I'm being, they're doing the thing that they're supposed to be doing. You start when you're sure that, okay, you're ready to get into a relationship. And I don't feel like people should go over 2 years personally, especially if you're not in high school. Like some people are anomalies and they'll go a little longer. Like I'll tell myself, I'm an anomaly. If I could do my life over again, possibly I would start dating later in life. But I mean, at the end of the day, that never happened. So of course, I'm still at the battlefield. But at the end of the day, I don't think that this long, and I guess maybe we can touch on that later on, but it really impacts the relationship. The longer it is, the harder the physical interactions get. But I don't believe in cookie cutter formulas at all, because I think cookie cutter formulas will not apply to everybody. And sometimes we do them for the wrong reasons. So we've decided, let's say for instance, you have a couple that decided we're not kissing until marriage, or we are not cuddling until marriage, or we're not. I know I had a friend who they decided that even if we're out on like a group trip or whatever, no matter what happens, they're not sleeping in the same room. Even if it's 2 separate beds, they're not sleeping in the same room. Okay. And I mean, personally, that's a boundary that I believe that yes, you have to set them boundaries there sometimes, right? But then at the end of the day, if somebody trapped outside and it's raining, are you going to say, oh, because you did watch something on YouTube and the something on YouTube did say you're not supposed to stay in the same room, what are you going to do? So it's something that really, really boils down to the relationship that you have with God, the relationship that you have with your partner, and you have that conversation. Because there are a lot of gray areas in the Bible. And there is a girl on YouTube called God is Gray. I don't know if you've stumbled upon her. I'm not promoting her channel. I'm not promoting her channel. Well, kind of low-key, but she has some views, and sometimes when you meet some of the conversations that she has some views on premarital sex. She has some views on even getting pregnant outside of marriage and stuff. And when you really look into it, you can really see that you can view things from a different perspective, right? And you're viewing these things from a different perspective. You don't necessarily agree, but at the end of the day, you will be convicted based on your conviction and what you and God sit down and talk about. So when it comes down to like personal conviction over these little things, I think it's very personal. I think it comes down to you and God. And I think convictions now, it's not a conviction that you have because you haven't been studying. It's a conviction that you have because you haven't been praying, you haven't been listening to advice. It's not that type of conviction I'm talking about. It's a conviction that you get after studying, after talking to people, after praying about it, after sometimes even fasting about it. Then that's what you've come to. Then when judgment day come, so that would be my best answer for that.
I like that you said that you don't do the cookie cutter type thing, because not only is everybody different, the fact that everybody's different means that every union is different.
Yes.
Meaning my relationship with Sam is going to be different from my relationship with Pam, right?
Yeah.
And not only that, we are constantly growing. Right? So my relationship and changing. So my relationship with Pam when I'm 25 is different from my relationship with Pam when I'm 27. Right? Yes. So it's as you said, the cookie cutter thing, like this one rule, it can't do that to apply to every situation. So
I know people want the rule. People want the rule. So if you're a person watching this and you want a rule, then I say stay on the other side of caution. If it's something that you can do and you want to put up a no kissing rule, no, it never hurt nobody yet. Last week I had a conversation with my friends and we were talking about the whole fact that I stumbled upon a series of videos and a series of conversations about people who genuinely believed that the Bible did not say sex before marriage was a sin. Right? And it was because they were saying that when you look at what marriage was in the Bible, you know, it really wasn't this big old white ceremony. And it was from the perspective of also saying that when you look at the principle behind it, it really was to stop promiscuity and not necessarily one man and one woman thing. And there's a lot more I can go into about that perspective. I don't agree with that perspective, first of all. So let me just get that out there. I don't agree with that perspective. And my friend, she said, but has it ever hurt anybody? Like to abstain and wait, it has never hurt anybody, you know? But you have seen how thinking that that person is your person and then you do it and then you have to, you know, readjust because it never work out. And the only thing that you really have that is safe is that ceremony in front of witnesses, in front of people, you know? So it will be the same thing. Putting up strong boundaries, it never hurt nobody. So if you are somebody who wants a cookie cutter answer, then I say do the extreme always.
I think persons, not just in this area, but probably especially in this area,
Yeah.
they want to focus on the rules and not the principle.
There we go.
Right? So
Bravo.
they want to focus on, well, is kissing a sin? No,
Yeah.
it's not a sin. The Bible doesn't say no about kissing.
Yeah.
Well,
Tick.
is fondling a sin? The
Yeah,
Bible
tick.
doesn't know that. Tick.
Yeah, tick.
And then they can go into like oral, this, that is oral sex, and all that kind of stuff. But I think if we look at the actual principle of what sex is and what sexuality is,
Meant for, yeah.
what it's meant for, what does it mean, what is it? So it's not just these are okay, but these are wrong. But if you focus on actually what it is and what it's meant for, I think that will help in actually being able, as you said, if you're gonna go the safe side, I think that mentality will help in terms of thinking about what sex is, what God wants for us. And after this was something that's helpful for me. After, I know we say God loves us and we say that like all the time, and so it just kind of passes through the air and it's just like, yeah, God is love, God loves us. But like sometimes we don't really understand what that means. And we don't understand that like the pleasure that we want and the joy that we want and whatever, God wants that for us, right? I remember the day that I learned that Eden, like the Garden of Eden, the word Eden actually means pleasure, right?
Oh, I never knew that.
That's what the word means. Like God literally made a place for man and named it pleasure. Like that's God's intention for us. And when I learned that, I had to like, I was watching a sermon, I had to like pause the sermon and just like apologize to God immediately for like just messing up his plans for me, right? Like, legit. Like we have to realize that these things that we're running down to get illegitimately,
yeah,
God
he
wants
them for us legitimately,
right?
Yes.
And it'll be so much better. It's like a mango upon a tree, but the mango green. And if just want to pick the mango right now, because you just want the mango, and he's like, no, wait, like it's gonna get better. Like, wait. But we just want to pick that mango right now. So I feel like understanding who God is, understanding what he wants for us, and understanding that his plans for us are better than our plans for ourselves. And what that really means, I think that will go a long way in helping us with these.
For sure. And the Bible said better to marry than to burn. It never lie. Never lie. And I did a whole live on it, or whole Instagram live on what it really means. It doesn't mean that your marriage should be built on sex at all. But what it does mean that if all the other things are in place, why do we allow society to pressure us to say, okay, you have to have the $2.5 million to put up this ceremony because it shows that you've reached a stage in life? That don't make no sense, right? Because if I know a couple, you know, and I can say this public because they have shared their testimony publicly. When they decided to get married in school, all of we look on them like we say, "Wanna crack?" because we couldn't understand. But they understood God's purpose for their marriage and God's calling on their lives. And they never allowed any of us. They never cared what we wanted to say. Because you know, we knew that they were together, but we think that they would have waited until at least them finished, but they didn't, right? But God knew that He needed their marriage for a purpose, and God knew that possibly if He allowed them to continue, maybe they would lose their relationship with Him. So they went ahead and they did it, no matter what we had to say, no matter what anybody else had to say. And I mean, now they give the testimony, and it's like a thing where I always tell them that I respect them for it, respect them for making that bold step in a situation and a place where everybody look on them like them and say, no, you're rushing it. Because we think that we have to have this big lavish ceremony and we have to have this amount of money, but it's far from that. It's more than if two people are ready, if spiritually they're ready, if they're compatible, if economically they can see how they can make it work. It's not a lavish life, but they can see how they can make it work. But they're waiting because they need to wait on society to say yes. And because they're waiting, then they're now predisposed to all of these other sexual temptations that naturally come along, right? And then they're fighting with this sexual temptation. They're fighting, they're battling, the spiritual life down for it. Then if that's the thing, then you better to go get married. You better to go ahead.
All right, Zara, I have a question for you. You're the only female in this conversation, so you're gonna represent your gender right now, right?
Sure.
All right. I've noticed this many times. So a female can meet a guy, right? And see some potential and try to see where it goes. Maybe from some days in, maybe some weeks in, maybe a month in, you realize this isn't the guy for me, right? And decide, no, this isn't gonna work out. Right. That's okay. A guy can meet a female, right? And see some potential. Let's see where this can go, right? Maybe a weekend, maybe a couple of days, maybe a month in, he might be like, nah, this isn't the one for me, and the situation. He's a player. He was on. He never see us. He just didn't want this, whatever. Like, why is it so hard for females to accept that maybe the guy he just didn't see you as the girl for him? Like, why does, if he walks away from the situation, you have to now attack his character? Like, talking about that, I don't know if you've experienced that. Maybe not for you, but like seen that, witnessed that kind of thing.
We date wrong. I've experienced it personally. We date wrong. We don't know how to date properly, but for both females and males, we, as soon as somebody comes with it, we're together. And it shouldn't be like that. There should be a phase where you're getting to know the person, and a phase where you're very transparent and you're very open and you're very honest. Now, what happens is that sometimes these men aren't honest. So they aren't honest, and because they aren't honest, we have expectations, and that's where it falls down. Because we have these expectations because you weren't clear that this is what you're doing. You seem as if you come like a long time you outbids me, and you come in and you say, I want to start something. The approach was never, unless the approach was initially from the beginning to tell me, yo, I'm just fishing around.
No,
dating casually.
In a sense, you're kind of doing exactly what I described. In a sense, let me make sure I'm clear. Let me make sure I'm clear. The guy was genuine, when he saw this female. He saw the female, right?
And he told her straight up that just getting to know people.
No, he wants to get to know her.
Okay.
Right? All right. She got Hagley Park AY. He went to Hagley Park AY. They met. He finds her physically attractive. They had a good conversation. He's like, right? They exchanged numbers. So at that point, he's as interested as a guy can be after a first conversation.
Okay.
Right? 2 weeks pass of them talking, communicating. He's
Yeah.
observing, she's observing, he's observing. A month passed, but after a month and you get to know more, you realize, you know what, for whatever the reasons are, I don't think this is the one. And he ends it. I've seen where, and I've experienced where, the mere fact that the guy is the one who ended it, in her opinion, him that lead me on, him never serious, him never said want to use me, that kind of thing. I feel like males are just expected. If a female just change her mind, you just need to accept it. If a female says she doesn't want this, you just have to accept it, whatever. Whereas females, a lot of the time, if the male does that, not interested anymore, whatever, doesn't see as the one, then there comes a personal attack on the guy where he was never serious from get-go, in her opinion.
Yeah, and it's because we did it wrong. So when I say we did it wrong, it doesn't mean that the guy is on the guy's side as well, but it's because we have already, sometimes as females, and this is something that I've spoken about openly as well, we see the guy and we already have planned the wedding and the matching colors for the kids. So we aren't very open-minded, so we don't accept what the reality is. You never say yes, nobody is your person until they have officially said, okay, and if they've decided that they want to change their mind, you're not married until they're married. You're not fully committed ever until you go in front of the altar. So we do it the entire thing wrong, and it's because the world changed what courting was, of course, because courting was very patriarchal, where your father give you to somebody and whatever. Then after the 1940s, roaring 40s, when people, especially women, started becoming free, then women wanting to go do their own thing. So when we, as a church now, we try to figure out what Christian dating is, and it's hard to blur the lines, because no, that type of dating that the world knows of dating involves sex. It involves a lot of physical intimacy. It involves boom, bam, thank you, ma'am, and move on. That's what it involves. But then we, in this getting to know phase, without that, sometimes that is included, sex is included, it shouldn't be, but it is. Then it's so hard to blur the lines, because now we feel as if, all right, we dated and now we're supposed to get married. But it's not supposed to be like that. Both men and women supposed to have the opportunity to meet people, get to know people, and decide whether or not they want this. And yes, women get a little bit emotional about it because we don't face the reality. And I know that for sure, because I've been in this situation where I don't face the reality. So you'd think that because you think good, you are all that, say you're good, your mother good child, all that and a bag of chips, and this boy come tell me, say I'm not interested, excuse you. So it does something to us, but it is because we haven't opened our minds. We haven't opened our minds to what the process should be like. And because we don't open our minds, we allow ourselves to be disappointed. That's just the harsh reality. So we start planning the wedding from the meet the guy, and we want him to fall into line, and he's not falling into line. It messes up the plans, and it's because we're doing it all wrong. So it's not something that we do that I would say is correct. It's not supposed to be done. And I also think that honesty is very good. So being open, being transparent, a lot of times it's because sometimes leading on actually happens when, like, sometimes the guy don't know some lead on the girl too. Sometimes guys naive, them going, boy, no, that's one of the other thing. Una lead on the girl, not even realize.
But in the example that I gave, I don't think you can define it as leading on, because to me, leading on is giving the impression that you want something, but you actually don't want it.
Right.
In this example, he was genuine until he changed his mind.
Yeah, and he has the opportunity even the day before the wedding to change his mind. Harsh, but that it is what it is. Even the day before, him can say.
I feel like men are just used to being rejected way more than females. So we've just built it in.
That could be true.
Our rejection muscle is strong, and further rejection muscle just weak.
That could be true. That could be true. That could be true.
All right, you're dating a guy, right? Everything is not everything, but yeah, things are good. Like he's the one for you, in your opinion. You don't like the in-laws and the in-laws don't like you. The potential in-laws, you're not married yet, but you meet his family, they don't like you. Honestly, you don't like them, but you like the guy. The guy checks all the boxes.
Oh gosh, that rough.
What do you do?
How often you go see these in-laws? Because sometimes you can't ignore them and move on, you know. Sometimes it's a them problem and it's not a you problem.
Mm-hmm.
I do think that the better relationships thrive the further away from home you both are. That's personally, I've seen it work best when you move away. So if you think about any mother-in-law drama, oftentimes they live together in a very close in the very close vicinity or in the same house or whatever. So I think it really comes down to why they don't like you. If they don't like it because they don't think you're good enough for their son, or because they think that there are some things that you want to work on, you need to work on or whatever, then maybe it's a point for you to grow as a person, right? Not the good enough part, but like the part that there are some characteristics that possibly you can work on. But if it's just because them just have a bad heart, but this person, sometimes a lot of people when they leave home, they have been re-socialized, so they're no longer like their family and they're different. Then I don't think that's supposed to be a hindrance. It's going to cause problem, because of course children might come into play and grandparents will have to be in part of the children's lives and stuff. But if you have to do that once or twice per year, you're not dead. So I think I honestly think that if in-laws don't like you, especially is after you're getting serious and stuff, you realize that in-laws don't like you, I don't think it should be a big deal breaker, because at the end of the day, you're not living with them and you're not marrying them. And the Bible did tell you to leave and cleave, right? So that's personally what I think, that you're not marrying them. They're not going to be they might be a part of your life. And also it will boil down to what the other person has to say. So the guy, he will now have to decide who is his allegiance to. Because if the mother is going to disrespect you and he does not put down his foot, then maybe you don't need to be with that guy in the first place. So I think it's a whole dynamic. It's really how all the roles interplay. And I do truly believe that no matter how horrible a person is, if no matter how horrible in-laws are, if they see that the person really respects you, loves you, and that they cannot disrespect you in front of that person, then I think that they might not always love you, because truth is we're not going to like everybody. Everybody have them person. We're not going to like everybody, but they will respect your household and they'll respect you. So
yeah, I think that's important.
Yes.
About like how would the guy deal with the situation.
Yes.
Because at the end of the day, if you and a guy married, you have to be his priority.
Yep.
Not his mother, not his father, not his siblings, you.
Yeah.
So I think that's crucial. So yeah. All right, a couple more questions. Money. Woman's making more money than the guy. Think that should be a problem if the guy feels insecure? What should he think about that? The female, should she have a problem with making more money than a guy? Talking about how you think money should play out in a relationship, in that specific thing where the female makes more money than the male.
Meaning, okay, so should the guy be upset?
All right, so let me break it down. And there's something else I want to ask, because I've had this conversation kind of recently as well, sincere. But let me personalize it. If you made more, because I know females who they don't want a guy that they make more money than, right? So that's a problem.
Guy feel emasculated sometimes.
Or if you had a male friend who his lady makes more money than him and he feels the way about it, like how would you, what are your feelings on that? Should it matter?
I think it comes down to the fact that sometimes we think that money makes you the leader, but it doesn't. And being the leader of the household means that you need to be making more money, but it doesn't. I think it really boils down to the relationship that you have with the person. I personally don't think you should feel any way about it, because if you're going to eventually get married to the person, it's going to be the union's money. It's not going to be a one person's money. So I think I have friends who female friends who they work more money than their partner, and it's not an issue because the money is the household's money. It is the money that comes in. And when you really look at it, sometimes the man is pulling weight in other areas that she might be carrying in more money. But at the end of the day, he's doing what if everything that he's doing should be put into coins, possibly he will be doing more anyways. So I think why it has this negative connotation is because of ego. It's because of selfishness. It's because of how we view ourselves as, oh, we're supposed to be leaders. We're supposed to be, because remember that initially, the original plan was that men were supposed to be the ones going out to work and the women were supposed to be nurturers. So sin came into the world, and that is no longer the original plan. So the original plan has changed. Women are now in the workforce, and women are in professions that sometimes pull in more money than some of the men. But it shouldn't be a big deal. But it becomes a big deal when we're so into ourselves and we don't really view it as a partnership. We view it as a kind of look down on. And because I look down on you, how dare you? And sometimes women use it as a power tool. So some women have been in hurtful situations where, oh, I am big bad all by myself, Miss Independent, I don't need you to talk to me. And they'll use it as a weapon on the man, and they say, oh, I pay the bills around here, or I make the money around here. It shouldn't be like that. So I think it's based on how each person deals with, how each couple deals with it. The woman should not use it as a weapon or as a tool, and the man should not feel bad about it, because at the end of the day, there's still a partnership going on.
I have some friends, I met them this year,
Mhm.
and I was in a car ride with them, and they just said something that was just wild to me. What they said was what their understanding of what marriage is from the Bible is that, and they apply what they take from the Bible to life now in our society, and they say if a man and a woman are married and they're both working, it's the responsibility of the man and the man only. His paycheck should take care of the household, and her money is her money.
I've heard it
For
before.
her to do whatever she wants with it, but
Yeah.
his money is responsible. And to me, that's just crazy, because it's either it's a partnership or it's not. Like,
Yeah.
it's either we're partners in everything or not. Like, we're not partners and stuff with finances. It's just me and you're over there. To me, everything is a partnership. So that's interesting to hear from them.
I've heard that before. I've also heard, and this maybe this one is the one I agree with the most, the perspective that men, if we're going to look at what the biblical role of marriage is, the men are still the providers.
Mhm,
As women, when we go out to work, we are really helping you.
mhm,
So if tomorrow we decide we no longer want to work, you should be okay with that,
fine.
right? Because we're helping you in the
Mhm,
household.
mhm,
And also on the flip side, if tomorrow you decide that you don't want to help me with the nurturing of the household, I should also be okay with that.
mhm, mhm. That's
But at the
balance.
end of, huh?
That
Yeah,
is balance.
balance, right? But at the end of the day, we know that is a partnership.
Right.
And we know that even being being a housewife is ridiculously hard. I don't feel like why people don't think that staying at home and taking care of a house, taking care of children is hard work. So even if the man is going out in the field to work, I feel like a sensible man would also want to come in and help his wife too, even if she's home all day, because being home all day does not mean that you're super tired. It's really hard. So I really think that it's all about the balancing act. It's a partnership, but still we still should recognize that there are still certain things that women are called to do just because of how we're made up.
Mhm.
Naturally we are made up a certain way. We have breast milk. That is a part of how God has built us as women. And then naturally men, even when you think about how men think much more logically
Yeah.
versus a woman thinking emotionally,
Emotionally.
men are poised to figure out the logistics of things. It's just how it works. We can argue it from any direction that we want to, but that's how I really feel it's a balancing act.
Because why I agree with that and why it's different from the perspective of those persons is,
Mhm.
So as you said, so the male, my responsibility is to provide and so forth, and she
Mhm.
nurtures for the home. But when she decides to work, she's taken away her role as nurturer and homemaker and all that is being taken from,
It's
right?
split. Yeah, she have to
Right.
give attention to that, right?
So therefore, if you are therefore not fulfilling to the greatest capability as nurturer, right?
Mhm.
That has to be filled in by somebody or some way or somehow, right?
Mhm.
So you deciding to work now, that can't just be for you. If you're
Mhm.
deciding to work, then that you're stepping somewhat into my role as provider, and that has to provide, and then I have to kind of supplement as nurturer, right?
Yeah.
So if she decides, she's going to stay home and take care of the home, and I'm going to work and provide, then that's fine. But it can't be that we both have 9 to 5s, but your money is
My
my money,
money.
and nah, that's
And the truth is, there some households run like that, and they make it work. So
Mhm,
that's why I always say, what works for your household, then do you, boo, like make that work for you.
absolutely.
But it might not work over here.
Nope. What do you think about couples going public? And by going public, I mean them get together for a month and then they're all in each other's profile pics and so forth.
Okay. So I struggle with this a lot because
Me too.
I, yes, because all right. So I'm big on social media, meaning that I've always been on social media. I love being online. And going public is a thing that for us, we say you don't make it public until it's permanent, right? And don't hide it because you don't know your people bad mind or whatever, whatever, whatever. So I think it really, really, I think it shouldn't go public until you are at a stage in a relationship that you're okay with it being in the public. It shouldn't be a thing that as you meet somebody, you go public about it. But I think going public is important. And I think going public in back then it used to be you used to go out in the village and everybody knows you together, but it doesn't work like that anymore because social media mimics social interactions. That's what social media was made for. No, I think it's important to go public for different reasons. First reason is because it helps you to stay accountable. Somebody who knows when it's known that you're with somebody, know you're accountable to other people. And as Christians, we need as much accountability as possible, right? So I think it's important for that. The second reason it's important is sometimes you have to make people back off. And I know that if I never did go public, a lot of people wouldn't have backed off, right? And out of respect for my relationship and out of respect for the person I'm with, I kind of want to tell people that, yeah, you can, and even with that, my DMs are still, come on to my DMs. But yeah, so it's important for that. So what the third reason? Oh yeah. And the third reason is because I think that if you want to share, then it shouldn't be because everybody else has said you mustn't public until they permit. It shouldn't be because of what others want to think. Some people are just sharers. I know I like to share a lot about my life. And I know that there's this one person, I remember her being very open about sharing stuff about her relationship, and then she just stopped. And then she started doing some stuff like cut off him head, put an emoji over it. But then I realized that it wasn't from a place of genuine, I'm a very private person. Because if you're like that, then that's fine. If you're a private person, then that's fine. But for just gimmicks and just because other people said it, I don't think that should be the premise of it, right? So for those three reasons, I think sharing is okay. The next thing now that I want to say is that with sharing, I think it's levels. I think there are levels to it. I don't think that it took me years. When I say years, I mean that years. Sister, I started sharing my relationship public about a year ago. And we worked together years before that. And I remember going through along, should I not? Supposed to left again, because we left before. I say, me no want of archive no pictures or anything like that. But I know what I would say is that it levels. So after you've reached a stage where you say, okay, you think you can share on this, And especially if you're using, like I use my profile publicly for stuff like relationships. So I mean, if I never shared about it, then would I kind of share it? Because I mean, what authority do I really have, you know? What are these examples? And you never see somebody yet. So I had to take it from that perspective. And then I also had to realize that you can strike a balance between making something public and making it private. Privacy doesn't mean that it has to be a secret, because as much as I share my relationship online and I'm pretty, you know, I post a picture every now and then, it's nothing that I don't have a couples page or anything like that, but I don't hide it. But people really don't know anything about it. So you can't tell me not much about it unless you know us personally. So you can share for those three reasons that I mentioned after you've gone through certain stages, after you've covered certain levels, and I guess after you've been exclusively dating to a point where you know that you're talking about marriage and stuff, and you're confident that all right, this looks like it's serious. Not when you're iffy, and not because of societal pressure, not because you feel like, oh, you have to post this now because, you know. So that's what I think when it comes to sharing.
Yeah, I had that problem for two reasons, I think. One, just because for me with social media is just kind of a way for me to show what's happening in my life, right? So
Yeah.
anything that's happening in my life, I just kind of want to post it.
Yeah,
Like,
I just want to snap a picture where you eat and nothing serious.
and in recent times, I've really had to pull back on that. I was like, yo, I'm kind of sharing too much. The other thing is, I do a lot of I guess kind of psychology on myself. Like I notice I do some things and I kind of try to look back and see why I do it. Right. So this is what I think if I spoke to a therapist or something, this is what I think would be the thing. So I remember in high school, I had a group of friends, right? And church friends while I was in high school, my church friends. Um, and there's a lot of dating going on, whether within the group or somebody in the group with somebody else, different church or whatever. And me just never did get no girlfriend. Like I was like,
Well
what's wrong with me though? Like, I play sports, I do music, my grammar isn't bad. Like, and it bothered me. I'm a teenager, you know, so it bothered me, right? Right after high school, I got my first girlfriend. I want the world to know.
no.
I want the world to know. You see this girl here? This is my girlfriend. This is my girlfriend. My girlfriend is right.
Oh gosh.
The relationship probably lasted, I think, like 5 months. Right? And then quickly I was in another relationship. See this girl is my girl. And
And
I
you were
realized,
posting all of that?
yeah, like,
Yeah.
well, all right, hold on, let me see. I'm now this is like when Facebook and then things just start get like
High five, maybe.
high five. But there have been posts on probably all of them. You know, I can think about it. But
And that I don't think is healthy.
right. So it's almost like having a girlfriend is almost like a form of currency, like some sort of clout type of thing. And so I was driven to go public. I wasn't going public for any of the reasons you gave, any of the constructive reasons, whatever. It was kind of almost like filling that void of those years where both me and everybody's like, yeah, yeah, I'm a girl. So it was like compensating for that. So yeah, and it's like years later, I look back at my behavior and certain things that I did, and I say, like, where did that stem from? So yeah, that's something. And even to this day, it's like it's something I even now, like if a friend come to New York right now and link up with me, I'm kind of reluctant to even post too much about it because I have so many pictures with like females up from those years that now it's almost like I have to like scale back like all this posting or whatever. So
Yeah. I mean, I have been even because I mean, I do post a lot of stuff in general, and the last couple of weeks I have been pulling back because sometimes even with posting, you forget to really be in the moment. You get so caught up in posting that, I've been going to stuff, and people says, "Zara, where's your camera?" And I'm like, I'm off the grid today, because sometimes you really miss out because you're so caught up on capturing the right things and posting the right stuff, and then you post and people commenting, and it's something that sometimes you have to catch yourself and you have to evaluate. Like I do. I also am my own therapist. I do a lot of self-evaluation, and I try to evaluate everybody around me, but they won't allow me, right? But I do a lot of self, and I say, "Zara, no, you go wrong for this. You shouldn't do this, or why you think that this was necessary." So I know that I have been pulling back, because when you're a content creator and you're trying to create content, sometimes it can get out of hand, and you have to like tell yourself that, so you can keep some things for yourself. Some things are to be for your circle, and your circle, at the end of the day, when something is wrong, you don't go on Instagram and say, "Hi guys, I'm going through XYZ." You call your friends. So why can't you allow this moment to be enjoyed for what it really is, a moment, and not just a piece of content. So.
Right. I remember in 2019, my favorite musician, his name is Corey Henry, and he came to Brooklyn where I live to do a concert. And I remember when he came out onto the stage, I can't describe the feeling, like just seeing him, like this is something I've been watching for years, but online. But he was just like there, like, yo, he's right there. And it's like I want anybody who's a musician, who's a good musician, knows who this person is, right? Like
He just listen to music was so good. I really know that.
Right. But if you're a musician, like you play, especially if you play keyboard, you know Corey Henry, right? So it's like I want to take up my phone, because I want to like show that, yo, I'm seeing him live. But it's just like I'm so locked into the moment. And eventually I was like, no, I have to capture this. So eventually I did take out my phone. But for those moments when I was recording, the experience wasn't the same. It wasn't the same. He's still there, he's still playing, the music is still great. But once you're recording, you're not in the moment. You're recording, you're thinking about posting later, you're thinking about all these things, you're not locked in the moment. And so that's that. And also now, like sometimes when I post things, it's just I feel like this tension. Like there's this tension. Yeah, some certain things when I post them, I like if you'll see me post something and then probably like 5 minutes I just take it down. It's like that just never did for post. So now it's like, and as I said, we're both content creators, so we do have to post and have to find good content. But I think
over time you know what to post, and you can there are lots of ways to post stuff that don't reveal everything. So
yeah, for sure. Listen, Zara, we've been waiting because I reached out to you like July.
Yeah.
You said you had some moving parts, so I had to put it to August. So
moving parts, man.
For a long time, and it was definitely a pleasure talking to you and discussing these things with you.
Oh, it was a pleasure. It was a good conversation. I'm always down for good conversations. These discussions that we just don't always have in church.
I have one more question that just came up. Dating a guy with a best friend who's a female. Go.
No. All right. So I should be a best friend. But I also know, okay, all right, let me be realistic about it.
Yeah.
So I think that especially if you went into the relationship and you saw this female best friend,
right,
then it's okay. And I also think that as female, because I've been a female best friend before, where I knew that there are certain things that I have to pull back on. And sometimes the issues come up because some of these female best friends don't know that they need to pull back on some of these things. So the reason you were fulfilling a certain role in that guy's life was because he wasn't with anybody. So even though you were the best friend, you had some roles that possibly a girlfriend was supposed to be doing, but sure, you're the best friend, you cannot do it, right? Now that the girlfriend comes, you as a lady must be conscious for knowing that certain things just not gonna do anymore. And when you have situations like that, I think the girl the lady coming into the relationship, seeing that, should respect that. Now, what I do have a issue with is when you go out, go find a new female best friend, a best friend to get so close to while we're in a relationship. To me, I personally just don't feel comfortable with that, because to build a relationship and to build a friendship takes work and it takes time. So that time when you were building that, why we never did it develop? Why we never did that grow? You know, because this is during our relationship. When did you find all that time? Especially if it's like a school friend, a mutual work friend where you're spending time, then that's different. But outside of that, then there's a lot of explaining to do. Trust plays a major role in it as well, and understanding. But I think one of the biggest things, I had a friend one time, we were pretty close. When he started dating, I knew that I had to take a step back, and I did. And they eventually got married, and the wife was still just not comfortable with our relationship. And because I knew that, I just had to take a step. We're still friends, no, but I just knew that we just can't be as tight, because we used to be tight. We used to have him passwords for him in emails, because I used to help him send out job applications and stuff. And I just knew that I had to take a step back. Did I like it? No. Was it a positive experience? No, because I felt like I was losing my friend. But I knew that I couldn't have been doing this stuff for him. I knew that I couldn't play the role in his life that I was playing when he had somebody, because that to me is disrespectful. And I also knew that it just never worked. It just never worked well, because she has no reason to trust me, you know. She has no reason at all to trust me. While she can trust the man, she has no, because she don't know you.
Right.
The female don't know you, so she really has no reason. So I have to take a step back, and I do recommend that even if you're in a situation like that as a female, you have a role to play too. It's not always about what the guy. Sometimes the guy will say, because as we said, sorry, dear, but sometimes guy naive, them not realize. So you have to take a step back, and you have to say, yeah, we used to talk 11, 12 o'clock at night and chat about foolishness, but we just can't do that anymore, because you're dating somebody exclusively now. And I feel like you should be talking to her at that time of the night, you know, so stuff like that.
You're dating a guy, he he has an ex, but they're still friends.
What kind of friend? What do you need to be friend?
So wait. So wait. So you're dating a guy, and y'all break up, but y'all break up on good terms. It's just not gonna work out. Couldn't
Yeah.
you remain friends with him?
Yes, I'm messing with you. I'm messing with you. Yeah, you can be friends. You can
All
be
right.
friends.
So therefore, you're dating a guy. He's friends with his ex. How do you feel? How do you feel about that?
It comes down to the trust that you have with the guy. With the trust, it really comes down to trust. Why did they break up too? Because sometimes when you look at why they broke up, then it's okay to be cool with people and them and a friend, you know. Like it's okay to be cordial. It's somebody you can say Merry Christmas to Happy New Year, but you and them don't have to be besties, and it might be for the best. So I would look back on why you broke up, or situation. Do you still have feelings for this person? Why are you still friends? What is the benefit? What value is this person adding to your life? And if it's something that I see that can make sense and it can work. But if suppose you get a breakup because the timing was wrong, and not because they never like each other, not because they never compatible, then there's no way they can be friends. So I think it really depends on the situation, because feelings are feelings. Feelings will come up, and you have to be honest with yourself. Some people we can't be friends with, and it is okay. We can still tell them Merry Christmas and Happy New Year, but we just can't be friends with them, because then you're going to be in this battle where you say, but I still kind of like her, or still kind, yeah.
Last question, right?
You don't want to let me go.
Last question. So, you're with that guy, great guy. Things are going great. You find out he cheated on you, and he comes and says he's sorry, and he apologizes. He seems sincere. Is there any way you can forgive this guy and carry on the relationship?
I don't know. I can't honestly answer that question, because I don't know. I think I could forgive him, but I don't think I could move on, because I've seen it go up. I've seen it go wrong so many times, and especially if you're not married, there's no way you must stay and take abuse. Like even when you're married, but more so when you're not married, then it would be hard. But you know, when you're in the situation, you might have a different answer. That's why I say,
Yeah.
because me see people do it all the time. Would I, from a practical, um, theoretical perspective, I would say no. I don't know. I think I could forgive him, but I would say I don't think we can move on because it would take a while to build the trust from a practical situation, from a theoretical, but practically with emotions coming into play and actually seeing people change, because I think people can change. I think especially if at that stage of your life you weren't as close to God than you are now, and I see that you're trying to be closer to God and your spiritual life, you're growing and you have a desire, then possibly. But it's hard for me to say yes or no right now because, you know, but from the book answer would be definitely no. We just can't.
I can't. I can't.
There you don't know.
Listen to me. My girlfriend, if we had an argument,
Yeah.
and she stabbed me,
Mm-hmm.
I could chalk it up to, yo, my girl's just crazy like that. Like, like I could move on from that. I could be in the hospital, get my healing. I could. I'm not saying I would like say an abusive thing, but I could like wrap my mind around that. Anything but that. Like that, like, and I feel like even when you look biblically, like that was like the only grounds given like for
Right.
like it's like God knows that's that's like my girlfriend and our next tough man. Like listen, that like she could lie to me and I could get past it. She could hit me, I could get past that. She could burn down my house, I can get past that. But that one is
hard. It's hard. But as I say, when you're in the situation, it's different.
I understand.
Yeah.
When you're actually in an emotional position with somebody.
Yeah, and you can't tell any of your friends because your friends will not forgive the person.
Listen,
because
I can't tell my friends because my ego, yo. Like, the person go church. The guy go church. So me and my girlfriend are sitting in church, and then the guy ran past and look at us like, like it's hard. They're hard. That one's hard. And to me, like, fidelity is such a serious thing. And I can say this. I don't want to say this like in a self-righteous type vibe, because things can happen and people can fall and you never know. But as relates to my intention and how my mindset is, and I'm saying this as a person who I've cheated in relationships before, right? If I was at this point in my life, if I was in a relationship with a girl that I'm serious about, like, this is the one, I feel like, yeah, I'm serious about this girl, and I had an opportunity to cheat on her, right? And I know for a fact that she won't find out and nobody will find out. Like, in this magical world, I know that for a fact. Like, again, I don't want to say it's like from a self-righteous position, right? Because that's when you're gonna fall. But like, as far as my intentions would be, I wouldn't do it because it's not only her not cheating on me. Like, I don't want to cheat on her because to me, the exclusivity that's like the ideal, right? Yeah. And it's that important to me. So it's like, that's just the one thing that I can't like move. I feel like I can't move.
Because you can forgive the person, but the relationship
it's sticky.
But since we're on this point though, Dale, like, where are you? Because, you know, I'm always looking for prospects on my church girls. So are you dating? Are you
We're doing this?
Yeah, we're doing this. Well, everybody know me, you know, I have no, Dale, you will learn this. Zara has no shame, all right? And Zara always trying to match make. So are you dating? Are you courting? What's up? What's happening?
Right now, none of the above.
None of the above. So you're not interested. So not you can't. Do you want me to put you on the reserve list for like later, or
Wow, I'm on the hot seat on my podcast. Wow, this is a first. People always ask me, like, I've had this question a lot in the past. So my last relationship was 2019.
Mhm.
I've been involved with persons since,
Like dating and but nothing
yeah,
serious.
but yeah, never is my girlfriend.
Okay.
Where's that going with this? Yeah. So since then, persons have asked me, like, I always get this question. I never understand the question. Like, people ask, "Are you single?" And I'll be like, "Yeah," and they'll be like, "Why?" And I'm like, it's almost like girlfriend sell a shop. It's like I never understand like how
Like
that,
you can just pick up one, but
right.
there are lots of prospects and it's easier for a guy. I always say it.
What?
Yes, it's easier for a guy.
It's not easy for a guy.
Of course it's
No way.
easy.
No way.
It's
No
easier for a
way.
guy. There are lots of Christian girls. Lovely.
There's no way. It's if you're if you're average looking to good looking, right? We're comparing apples and apples. So if you're a female, average looking to good looking, and if you're a male, average looking to good looking, right? That female, if she wants a boyfriend today, she can get a boyfriend today. Now, it might not be a boyfriend to her standards, you know. It might not be the guy that checks all the boxes, but she can get a boyfriend today. Easy.
No, 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 no,
I'm not
not
asking you.
no, but not with all not with all the things that she wants.
Yeah, no, I understand that. I understand that. What I'm saying is, put standards aside. She feels like having a boyfriend. She can get a boyfriend today.
All right, that's fair.
A
But
guy, you can't say that same for a guy. Like he just wants. There's some. I'm not saying there's some guys who are.
no, but I'm talking about a specific type of guy. I'm talking about a guy who takes care of himself, a guy who puts God first, trusts God,
I understand.
look good, stay good, behave good. Him can go pick one day, and I've proven it. You know my list long, you know, and if there's a guy who's watching this, you know, I have to, if there's a guy who's watching this and you have checked all those boxes and you think that you have checked all those boxes and you're having a difficulty, DM me. I have a long list, ages ranging from about 22, 23 thereabouts, going to about 35, 40 thereabouts. So for the younger ones, I got you. For the older ones, I got you too, okay?
I can't agree that it's easier for the guy though. That just not. It's so much easier for a girl. So much easier for a
This
girl.
is a different conversation for a different day, but
So.
I feel because man short, like more you have more in the world in general, and then even worse in the church.
Okay. Okay.
That's really the perspective I'm coming from, the fact that if you're supposed to look on the ratio of men to women, and especially in the church, that's what I'm talking. That's the perspective, not just generally or no standards, but
I understand. But the guy has his checklist too, you know.
yes. All of my girl them pass the checklist too. They don't come on my list until them pass the checklist. So DM me.
All right.
Oh gosh, but yeah, Dale, why? Why are you single still? I know this is your podcast and everything. I know.
Yeah, but I don't know. I don't understand the question. Like, is the question?
Okay, let me explain.
Okay.
So it's from the perspective that we think that you have checked some of the boxes, most of the boxes. You take care of yourself. You seem to put God first. You seem to be working on yourself every day. You seem to have ambition. You seem to be somebody who's talented, who puts themselves out there. You're very sociable. Then if having all of those attributes and being somebody who to other females would have checked the box, why haven't you been snatched up yet? Simple.
But it's not. All right. So the best way I can answer that is I've been in relationships before. For whatever reason, they've ended. Right? And whenever the next one is gonna start, it's not today. Or
Okay.
it hasn't been up to today. So there's I don't know how else like to answer, because it's not a case where it's like I don't want a relationship right now.
So is it that you're okay? So it's not a case
But
where you're not looking at all, or
But then when people ask looking,
month
right?
phase.
When people ask, are you looking? To me,
Mhm.
that sound like
You're actively seeking, you're
I'm
not wrong.
going to this church, and I'm like,
Yeah,
yeah.
yeah, you're
And
not
the
doing
next
that.
about like, I'm not doing that, you know.
Mhm.
So like, yo, whenever
It's COVID. You could be jumping on Zoom calls. You don't know. I don't know.
this is right now, I'm working on my podcast, and whenever God opens up that door, whenever somebody, reveals himself, because again, it's not for I haven't said that sounds heavy, but when,
Oh my gosh.
when the energies match,
Nice.
where she looks at me and I look at her, and it is like,
Mhm.
there's a lot of mismatched energies, so
Sure.
the energies
That
have to
makes sense. That makes sense. You can send over your checklist to me though. I look out for the people's best interest.
I hear you. Sorry, yeah, boss. So
Oh, gosh.
it was definitely a pleasure having
It was awesome being here.
this part.
Thank you for the invite.
Thank you for coming. Pleasure. Ladies and gentlemen, this was another episode of To Be Honest. Peace out.
Bye.
Bye.